Hey there. So tonight we're going to talk about something that often gets lost beneath the glorious tales of conquering emperors and triumphant legions. The gritty, unromantic daily grind of a Roman soldier on the very edges of the known world. Forget the gleaming armor and heroic battles for a moment. We're stepping into the muddy boots of men who lived lives of brutal toil, constant vigilance, and often sheer boredom, far from the marble wonders of Rome. It wasn't always glory. It was dirt, discomfort, and relentless duty. Before we plunge into this forgotten world, do me a solid, like this video, subscribe for more deep dives, and drop a comment below with your location and the current time. Alright, find that cozy spot, wrap yourself in your warmest blanket, and dim the lights. Let's journey back 2 millennia. Imagine, if you will, the world you inhabit. A world of soft beds, of readily available food, of predictable routines that rarely involve the threat of a spear through your gut. Now strip all that away. You are a young man, perhaps barely out of your teens, toiling in the fields of Italy or some provincial backwater, your hands calloused from the plough, your mind preoccupied with the harvest, the unpredictable whims of nature, and the subtle dance of local village life. One day a different kind of authority arrives, not a local magistrate, but a legionary recruitment officer, his chest puffed out, his eyes gleaming with the institutional pride of Rome. He speaks of glory, of citizenship, of a life beyond the soil, a life that, to your naive ears, sounds like an escape from the relentless drudgery you've known. But he doesn't tell you the whole truth, does he? He doesn't tell you about the blood, the sweat, the fear that will become your constant companions. You hear tales of emperors and triumphs, of the vastness of the empire, and in your youthful exuberance, you sign up. You swear an oath, a solemn vow to Rome, to the emperor, to the very eagles of the legions, an oath that will bind you for the next 2.5 decades, an oath that will strip away your old identity and forge you anew. You are no longer just a farmer's son. You are a recruit, a tiro. The transformation begins immediately. You are herded with other fresh faces, your civilian clothes stripped away, replaced by crude, uncomfortable military attire. The first thing you notice is the collective nature of everything. No more individual choices. Every movement, every meal, every moment of rest is dictated. Your hair is shorn, your beard, if you have one, scraped away. You are a blank slate, ready to be written upon by the harsh hand of military discipline. The initial physical examination is less about your health and more about your raw suitability for survival. Can you march? Do you have all your limbs? Are your teeth strong enough to tear a tough bread? There's no sophisticated medical review, just a brusque assessment from a grizzled veteran whose gaze seems to strip away your very soul, searching for weakness. You pass, of course, because Rome needs bodies, strong, young bodies to fill the ranks. Then comes the training. This isn't just learning to hold a sword. This is a brutal, relentless reprogramming of your entire being. You are forced to march, not for miles, but for dozens of miles, carrying a pack that feels like it's filled with stones. You stagger, you sweat, you fall, but you learn to get up because the centurion's vine staff, the vitis, is a persuasive argument against sloth. You are taught to dig, endlessly, tirelessly. Roman soldiers are as much engineers as they are warriors, and you quickly discover that a spade is as important as a sword. Trenches, ramparts, fortifications. You learn to build them quickly and efficiently under the scorching sun or in the driving rain. Your hands, already tough, become raw, blistered, then finally truly hardened. Your back aches perpetually. Your muscles scream in protest, but you push through. Driven by the fear of punishment and the burgeoning sense of belonging to this new, brutal brotherhood, the weapons training is equally unforgiving. You are given a heavy wooden sword, a rudis, twice the weight of a real gladius, and a wicker shield. You learn to strike, to thrust, to parry, over and over, until your arms feel like lead and your mind is numb with repetition. You learn formations, the intricate, deadly ballet of the Legion, where every man is a cog in a vast, unstoppable machine. You learn to throw the pilum, the heavy javelin, with precision, to charge in a disciplined line, to hold your ground against an imagined foe. The air is filled with the shouts of centurions, the thud of practice swords, the grunts of exhaustion. You taste the dust, you feel the sting of sweat in your eyes, and you begin to understand that survival here means absolute obedience, unwavering discipline, and a willingness to endure pain beyond what you ever thought possible. The training ground becomes your entire world. Days blur into weeks, weeks into months. You sleep on hard ground in crowded barracks, your body aching, your senses assaulted by the smell of sweat, damp wool, and unwashed bodies. You eat coarse bread, watery porridge, and sometimes, if you're lucky, a scrap of salted meat. Every morsel tastes like ash. Every drink of water, no matter how refreshing, is a reminder of the scarcity. Your civilian past recedes, a distant memory of comfort and individual choice. You are no longer a person in your own right. You are a unit, a number, a piece of Rome's formidable military might. The individuality that once defined you is systematically chipped away, replaced by the collective identity of the legion. You learn to live in close quarters, to tolerate the quirks and odors of your tent mates, to rely on them, for your very life will soon depend on their vigilance and their skill. You learn to hate the cold, the hunger, the endless marching, but you also learn to respect the power of the legion, to find a strange, grim pride in your own growing resilience. You are being forged in a crucible of hardship, stripped bare of weakness, molded into a weapon for the Empire, whether you truly wish to be or not. This is not just training. This is a baptism by fire, a rebirth into a world where only the strong, the disciplined, and the utterly ruthless can hope to survive. The plough has been exchanged for the pilum, and your journey has just begun. Segment 2, The Endless Road. Marching into the unknown. You thought training was hard. That was merely an appetizer. Now the real journey begins. One crisp morning, perhaps under a sky that promises a long, hot day, or one heavy with impending rain, the order comes. You are to move out. This isn't a stroll through a well-worn path. This is a forced march, often for weeks or months, across landscapes that would break a modern traveller's spirit. You heft your sasana, your heavy marching pack, onto your shoulders. It's not just a backpack, it's your entire portable life. There's your military kit, spare clothes, your shovel and pickaxe, because you're still an engineer. Remember, your cooking pot, a water skin, your personal effects. Perhaps a small, treasured amulet and days' worth of rations. It weighs, by a conservative estimate, around 60 to 80 pounds. Add your armor, helmet, shield, gladius, and 2 pilar teeth, and you're carrying well over 100 pounds. Can you even imagine walking 20 miles day after day under that kind of burden? Your shoulders ache before you even take the first step, a dull, persistent throb that will become your constant companion. The column stretches out for miles, a disciplined, segmented serpent of humanity. The centurions bark orders, their voices carrying over the rhythmic slap of hobnailed boots on the dusty ground. The sun, if it's out, beats down relentlessly, turning your iron helmet into a personal oven, sweat stinging your eyes, plastering your wool tunic to your skin. If it's raining, the road quickly becomes a muddy, treacherous river, each step a struggle against the sucking earth, your boots heavy with clinging clay, your clothes sodden and chafing. The wind, when it rises, whips dust into your face, or, in colder climes, cuts through your meager clothing, chilling you to the bone. You march in silence, or nearly so, the only sounds being the rhythmic crunch of boots, the creak of leather, the occasional command, and the ragged breathing of your comrades. Conversation is rare, energy too precious to expend on idle chatter. Your world narrows to the heels of the man in front of you and the endless, unforgiving road. The terrain changes, but the marching doesn't. You trudge across flat plains where the horizon seems to mock your progress. across rolling hills that test your stamina with every ascent, through dense forests where shadows dance and every rustle could be an ambush, and perhaps most painfully, through arid, desolate lands where water is a cruel mirage. Each day is a battle against fatigue, against the gnawing hunger, against the incessant chafing of your clothes on raw skin. Blisters bloom on your feet, then burst, then become open sores, yet you keep moving. To fall out of line, to falter, is to invite the centurion's wrath, or worse, to be left behind, a terrifying prospect in hostile territory. You learn to find a rhythm, a trance-like state where your body moves almost independently of your mind, a mechanism of sheer endurance. You stare at the ground, counting steps, trying not to think about the miles ahead, focusing only on the next step. And the next, at the end of each grueling day, no matter where you are, no matter the weather, the first order of business is to build a marching camp, a temporary fortress for the night. This is where your training truly pays off. The legions don't just stop, they build. Within hours, a new, albeit smaller, fortified encampment rises from the ground. You drop your heavy pack, but there's no rest. You grab your tools and immediately begin digging a ditch, throwing up an earthwork, planting palisade stakes, a defensive perimeter to protect against any unexpected nocturnal visitors. Imagine marching for 20 miles, then spending hours digging and building, utterly exhausted, before you can even think about food or sleep. This routine, performed with a practiced efficiency that borders on the miraculous, is the hallmark of Roman military genius. Every night, the empire projects its organized strength onto the wilderness. Inside the quickly erected tents, shared with 7 other legionaries, the atmosphere is one of weary camaraderie. You gather around a small fire, the smoke stinging your eyes, but the warmth a welcome comfort. You boil your hardtack, rehydrating your meager dried rations, making a rough porridge or a thin soup. The taste is bland, monotonous, but it's fuel. You share sips of sour wine, perhaps discussing the day's march in hushed tones, or simply staring into the flames, too tired for words. Hygiene is a distant memory. You wash your face in a nearby stream if one is available, feeling the grit and grime come off, but your body remains a symphony of sweat, dust, and dried mud. The thought of a proper bath is a luxurious fantasy. You crawl into your sleeping space, wrapped in your cloak, the hard ground beneath you. The sounds of the camp, the occasional whinny of a horse, the distant hoot of an owl, the shifting of guards, slowly lulling you into a fitful sleep, always with one ear open, always ready for the trumpet blast that signals trouble. The constant movement, the lack of fixed points, leaves you disoriented. You lose track of days, of weeks. All that matters is the next dawn, the next march. The outside world shrinks. Your entire existence becomes confined to the column, to the marching camp, to the small circle of your tent mates. You rarely interact with civilians, and when you do, it's often a fleeting, wary encounter as you pass through a remote village, the locals staring at you with a mixture of fear and curiosity. You are an alien force, a disciplined wave of iron and will passing through their lives. The dangers are ever present, not just from human foes. You see men fall ill from drinking bad water, from exposure, from sheer exhaustion. A simple cut can fester into a deadly infection. Twisted ankles, broken bones. These are not reasons to stop, but reasons to fall to the rear, perhaps to be carried in a wagon or worse, to be left behind. The road is a relentless judge, unforgiving of weakness. Sometimes, reconnaissance patrols ranging ahead of the main column might encounter resistance. A quick, brutal skirmish reported back by breathless riders. You tense, your hand instinctively going to your gladius, but usually the main column passes without direct engagement. Yet, the threat is always there, a shadowy presence in the forests, an unseen watcher on the distant hills. You learn to read the signs, a sudden silence in the birdsong, an unnatural stillness in the woods, a plume of smoke on the horizon that isn't from your own fires. Your senses sharpen, your mind becomes a vigilant sentinel, constantly assessing threats even when your body screams for rest. The endless road is not just a path to a new fort. It's a journey into yourself, into the depths of your own endurance, where you discover a resilience you never knew you possessed. A grim determination forged in the crucible of ceaseless movement and constant underlying danger. This is the reality of projecting Rome's power into the wild, a monumental feat of human will, carried on the weary shoulders of men like you. Finally, the marching ends. One day, after countless sunrises and sunsets blurring into one continuous aching journey, the column halts. You stand on a rise looking out at a raw, untamed landscape, perhaps a windswept plain where only tall grasses wave, or a dense forest that stretches to an unknown horizon, or a river valley carved deep into the earth. This is it. This is the edge of the empire, the place where Rome will plant its standard, where you will spend the next years of your life. But it's not a fort yet. It's just ground raw, indifferent ground. And it's your job to turn it into a bastion of Roman power. The process begins with reconnaissance, conducted by the experienced engineers and centurions, men who understand the lay of the land, the flow of water, the strategic advantages of a particular hill or bend in a river. They search for a site that offers good visibility, defensible terrain, access to water, and proximity to vital resources like timber. Once chosen, the surveyors move in. They're not using sophisticated GPS systems. They're using Groma, simple right-angle sighting tools and long measuring ropes, meticulously laying out the precise dimensions of the fort. You watch them, these quiet, precise men, and realize that even in the wilderness, Rome brings its order, its geometry, its unwavering adherence to proven design. Every fort, from Britain to the deserts of Syria, adheres to a remarkably consistent plan, a testament to the empire's logical, systematized approach to warfare and control. Then the true labor begins. The first task is clearing. If you're in a forested area, you pick up your axe and become a lumberjack. The sound of dozens, perhaps hundreds, of axes biting into wood fills the air, a rhythmic, relentless chorus. Trees fall, their branches are stripped, their trunks dragged by sheer manpower to where they will be used for palisades, for construction, for firewood. You feel the sting of sawdust in your eyes, the ache in your forearms, the shudder of impact as your axe connects. If you're on a plain, the task might be less about felling and more about preparing the ground, leveling, digging. It's back to the spade and the pickaxe, tools you've grown intimately familiar with. You break virgin ground, turning over soil that has never known the bite of iron. The most iconic features of a Roman fort are its defensive earthworks. You, along with hundreds of your comrades, dig. You dig trenches deep and wide around the entire perimeter of the planned fort. The ground is hard, the work grueling, but the centurions are watchful, their VTs ever ready to correct any slackening of effort. As you dig, the earth you excavate is piled up to form an agger, an earthen rampart inside the trench. This isn't just a mound of dirt. It's carefully constructed, tamped down, often reinforced with timber. You haul basket after basket of earth, your shoulders burning, your hands raw. Day after day, the trench deepens. The rampart rises, slowly but surely, shaping the outline of your new home, your new prison. Then come the palisades. Into the top of the agger you drive sharpened stakes, each one a stout piece of timber hammered deep into the earth, forming a formidable spiked wall. Imagine the sheer number of stakes required for a fort that might house 1,000 men or more. Each one must be cut, trimmed, sharpened, and then driven in by hand. You stand there, wielding a heavy mallet, the repetitive motion numbing your arms, your mind, but knowing that each stake you drive is a small part of the protective shell that will keep you safe from the dangers lurking beyond. The thud of mallets, the shouts of men, the splintering of wood, these are the sounds of the empire establishing its presence. Gates are crucial. These are more complex structures, often timber towers with heavy wooden doors, designed to be robust and defensible. You might find yourself sawing, shaping, fitting heavy timbers, learning rudimentary carpentry skills under the watchful eye of a military engineer. The watchtowers, too, begin to rise at the corners and along the ramparts, giving vital vantage points for observation. These are often rough, hastily constructed affairs at first, but sturdy enough to house a sentry and provide shelter from the elements. As the defences take shape, the interior of the fort begins to be laid out. The Roman passion for order means that every building has its place. You help construct the barracks, long rectangular buildings, usually of timber and wattle and daub, sometimes with stone foundations if resources allow. Each contubernium, your 8-man tent group, will have its own small room, a space you will share with your comrades for years. You lay foundations, erect frames, plaster walls with clay and straw, thatch roofs with rushes or shingles. It's crude, functional architecture, but it's shelter. Then come the more significant buildings. The Principia, the headquarters building, often a grander affair where the commandant resides and the legion standards are kept. The Horea, the granaries, sturdy structures designed to keep grain dry and safe from pests, ensuring the legion's survival. The Valetudinarium, the hospital, a place you hope never to see the inside of, and the latrinae, the communal latrines, essential for maintaining some semblance of hygiene, rudimentary as it may be. Each of these structures requires immense labor, from quarrying stone if available, to shaping timbers, to mixing mortar. You learn to work with stone, with wood, with clay, becoming a jack of all trades, a builder as much as a fighter. The bathhouse, often built slightly outside the fort but sometimes within, is a relative luxury but a vital one for Roman morale and hygiene. It too must be constructed, often with heated floors and elaborate plumbing, a small piece of Roman civilization replicated even on the remotest frontier. Imagine the effort required to build such a complex structure in the middle of nowhere, relying on primitive tools and brute strength. It's a testament to Rome's commitment to its soldiers' welfare and to its belief in the civilizing power of its culture. The days are long, stretching from dawn until dusk, often continuing into the night by the flickering light of torches. Your body is a constant ache. Every muscle screams in protest. Your joints stiffen, your hands are a mass of cuts, splinters, and calluses. But you work side by side with your comrades, a shared endeavor that forges a deeper bond than any training exercise. You see the fort slowly materialize from the earth, a physical manifestation of your collective effort, your sweat, your endurance. You feel a strange, nascent pride, a sense of ownership over this place. This isn't just a fort. It's your fort built with your own hands, brick by laborious brick, log by heavy log. It's a symbol of Rome's unwavering will, a beacon of order in a chaotic, untamed world. And you are its architect, its laborer, and soon its defender. And as the final palisade is hammered into place, as the last roof beam is secured, you stand back, exhausted, covered in dirt and sweat, and know that you have truly brought a piece of Rome into the wilderness, by the sheer force of your will and the collective might of your legion. Segment 4. The rhythm of the fort. Daily duties and drudgery. You've marched for weeks, perhaps months, to this desolate corner of the world. You've sweated blood and muscle building the very walls that now enclose you. And now you settle into the rhythm of daily life within the fort, a rhythm that is less about thrilling combat and more about relentless, sometimes soul-crushing drudgery. The harsh reality of frontier service isn't constant glory. It's constant routine, a meticulous adherence to schedules designed to maintain order, discipline, and readiness. Your day begins abruptly, well before dawn. The piercing blast of the bucina, the curved trumpet, rips through the pre-dawn stillness, jarring you awake from a fitful sleep on your hard bunk in the barracks. There's no snooze button here, no slow stretch. You scramble, still half asleep, into your rough wool tunic and breeches. 8 men share a small room, and the air is thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, stale sweat, and the lingering scent of damp earth. You stumble out into the morning chill, perhaps grabbing a quick, cold mouthful of water from a communal bucket. Personal ablutions are minimal. A splash of cold water on your face, perhaps a quick scrape with a strigil, if you're lucky enough to have access to the rudimentary facilities. Privacy is a forgotten luxury. Every aspect of your life is communal. First light brings assembly, often in the fort's central courtyard, the Principia. You fall into formation with your contubernium, then your centuria, standing at attention while the centurion conducts a swift inspection. He's not looking for gleaming armor every day, not out here. He's looking for readiness, for alertness, for any sign of slackness. His gaze sweeps over you, cold and piercing. The smallest infraction, a loose tunic tie, a smudge on your cheek, can earn you a sharp rebuke or a cuff with his vitis. This constant scrutiny keeps you on edge, ensuring that even in the quiet monotony of the fort, discipline is never far from your mind. Then comes breakfast, such as it is. Often it's nothing more than stale bread, perhaps a piece of cheese if you're fortunate, washed down with posca pie, the thin, sour wine vinegar diluted with water. It's not appetizing, but it's fuel. You eat quickly, silently, your body already craving the energy for the day's tasks. There's no lingering over coffee or conversation. Meals are purely functional, another cog in the machine of the day. The duties begin in earnest. For many, it's guard duty. You spend hours, perhaps an entire shift, standing sentry on the rampart, in a watchtower, or at one of the fort gates. Your gaze sweeps the horizon, constantly scanning the distant tree line, the winding river, the desolate plains. Your senses are on high alert, straining for any unusual sound, any unnatural movement. The wind whips at your cloak, the sun bakes you, or the rain lashes down, but you stand unmoving, a silent sentinel, the watchful eyes of Rome. This isn't a passive role. A lapse in vigilance could mean the swift, brutal death of your comrades. The weight of that responsibility sits heavily on your shoulders. For others, it's weapon maintenance. You sit in the barracks or under a lean-to, painstakingly cleaning and polishing your gladius, oiling your armor, ensuring your pilum heads are sharp. Each piece of equipment is your lifeline, and its condition could mean the difference between life and death. You become intimately familiar with the feel of cold steel, the smell of leather and oil, the rhythmic scrape of a whetstone. This isn't just a chore. It's a meditative act, a silent communion with the tools of your trade. But much of the daily grind is far less glamorous. It's fatigue duties. This is the endless list of mundane, back-breaking tasks that keep a frontier fort operational. You might be assigned to dig, always digging, expanding the fort's ditches, maintaining the ramparts, digging new latrine pits, excavating for new buildings. The earth seems to be your constant enemy. Or perhaps you're on the wood detail, heading out under armed escort to fell trees and haul timber back to the fort for repairs or fuel. You might be assigned to quarry stone, chipping away at rock faces with primitive tools, your muscles screaming in protest. You haul water from the river or well endlessly, buckets heavy and sloshing. You clean the barracks, sweep the roads within the fort, repair fences, mend equipment, grind grain in the mill. The work is physically demanding, repetitive, and often mind-numbingly dull. It's the unglamorous backbone of military life. Interspersed with these tasks are drills. Oh, the drills! Even after initial training, you are constantly drilled, marching in formation, practicing maneuvers, mock skirmishes, weapons exercises. The centurions shout, The air fills with the clash of wood on wood, the grunt of effort. This constant repetition reinforces discipline, keeps your skills sharp, and ensures that when the real fight comes, your reactions are instinctive, honed through endless practice. You might resent it, but deep down you know it's what keeps you alive. Inspections are a regular part of life. The commandant, the prefect, or your centurion might conduct a spot inspection, demanding to see your equipment, your living quarters, your personal readiness. Everything must be in its place, clean and in good order. A poor showing reflects not just on you, but on your contubernium, your centuria, and the unit as a whole. The collective reputation is paramount. The afternoon might bring more fatigues, more drills, or perhaps, if you're lucky, some downtime. Off-duty time is a relative concept. You might mend your own clothing, clean your armor more thoroughly, write a letter home if a scribe is available, and you have money for paper and ink, a rare luxury. Some men gamble with crude dice, betting their meager pay, hoping to win a few denarii to buy a small indulgence. Others might sneak off to a nearby vicus, the civilian settlement that often springs up around a fort, for a taste of cheap wine or the company of a prostitute. But even these moments of respite are fleeting, often frowned upon, and never truly free from the shadow of military authority. Meals, like breakfast, are functional affairs, hardtack, perhaps some polzu, a thick porridge, whatever is available. The monotony of the diet grates on you year after year. You dream of fresh bread, of fruit, of rich roasted meat, but those are dreams for a distant, perhaps never to be realized, future. As dusk settles, the final duties of the day are performed. The evening watch is set, fires are banked, and a final inspection ensures all is secure for the night. You gather with your tent mates, perhaps sharing a final swig of sour wine, exchanging a few weary words before rolling out your cloak on the hard ground or thin mattress. The darkness of the barracks is thick, punctuated only by the soft snores of your comrades and the occasional rustle. Sleep, when it comes, is often deep but restless, your body aching, your mind still buzzing with the day's activities and the ever-present undercurrent of vigilance. This is the grind. Day after day, week after week, month after month. The constant physical exertion, the mental tedium, the lack of privacy, the relentless discipline. It strips away any romantic notions of military life, leaving you with the raw, unvarnished reality of survival on the frontier. You become a creature of habit, your body and mind molded by the unyielding demands of the legion. You learn patience, endurance, and a grim resilience. This isn't the glory of Rome you imagined. This is the price of it, paid in sweat, toil, and the endless, unyielding rhythm of the frontier fort. The fort, built with your own hands, provides a solid, if rudimentary, haven, but Rome's authority doesn't end at its walls. It extends, or attempts to extend, into the vast, untamed wilderness beyond. And it is your job to enforce that reach, to be the eyes and ears of the empire on its perilous edge. This means patrols. Imagine stepping out of the relative safety of the palisade, leaving the structured order of the fort behind, and venturing into a world that is inherently hostile, unpredictable, and utterly unforgiving. There are different types of patrols. Short-range patrols might involve a small group of legionaries, perhaps a contubernium, walking a few miles out from the fort, checking the immediate vicinity for any signs of activity, fresh tracks, disturbed foliage, smoke on the horizon that isn't from your own fires. These are often routine, almost mundane, but even on these familiar routes, every shadow, every rustle in the undergrowth can send a jolt of adrenaline through you. Your hand instinctively rests on your gladius, your eyes constantly darting, your ears straining against the sounds of the wind or the distant cries of wild animals. You learn to read the landscape, to identify signs that would be invisible to a civilian eye, the slight depression in the mud that indicates a shod hoof, the broken branch that points to a passage, the faint, acrid smell of an unfamiliar campfire. The world becomes a canvas of potential threats. Long-range patrols are a different beast entirely. These can last for days, sometimes weeks, with larger detachments of men venturing deep into enemy territory. You pack light, carrying only essential rations, relying on foraging and your wits to survive. The marches are grueling, often through trackless wilderness. You become intimately familiar with thirst, with hunger, with the cold dampness of sleeping under the open sky. Your senses are constantly on high alert. The silence of the wilderness is often more terrifying than it sounds because it means something is listening, something is watching. You are hunting, yes, but you are also keenly aware that you are being hunted. Watchtowers, often crude timber or stone structures, dot the frontier at strategic points connected by signaling posts. You might spend days, even weeks, isolated in one of these lonely outposts, your only company, a handful of comrades. From your elevated vantage point, you scan the landscape, your gaze sweeping over vast distances. A column of smoke, a distant movement, a change in the usual patterns of wildlife. Any of these could be a signal of impending danger. You are Rome's eyes, tasked with providing the earliest possible warning. The solitude can be oppressive, the monotony soul-crushing, broken only by the occasional shift change or the arrival of a supply runner. But the responsibility is immense. You are the first line of defense, the guardian of the quiet before the storm. And the storm, when it comes, is sudden, brutal, and often brief. You might be on patrol, moving cautiously through a dense forest, when a shower of spears erupts from the trees, followed by the guttural war cries of unseen enemies. Ambush. There's no time for thought, only reaction. Your training kicks in. You drop your pilimpsy, perhaps impaling an attacker, and draw your gladius, bringing your shield up. The sounds are deafening, the clash of steel, the screams of men, the thud of bodies. The smell of fear, of blood, of sweat fills the air. You fight with desperate ferocity, shoulder to shoulder with your comrades, a tightly disciplined unit against a chaotic, overwhelming assault. These aren't glorious set-piece battles. These are desperate, savage encounters, fought in close quarters, where survival depends on your skill, your courage, and the unwavering support of the man next to you. The enemy varies. In Britain, it might be painted Picts or fierce Celtic tribesmen, swift and agile, fighting with a terrifying primal fury. On the Rhine, it could be towering Germanic warriors, their massive swords and shields, a stark contrast to your gladius and scutum. In the deserts of the east, it might be swift-riding Parthian horsemen, their arrows a constant, deadly threat. They are not always numerous, not always organized, but they know the land, they are fierce, and they are utterly merciless. You learn to respect their fighting prowess, even as you cut them down. After a skirmish, the immediate aftermath is grim. You check your comrades for wounds, administer what primitive first aid you can, and search the bodies of the fallen enemy for anything useful. The adrenaline slowly drains away, leaving you trembling, sickened by the violence, but alive. You have survived. But the psychological toll of these encounters, even brief ones, is immense. You have seen men die, sometimes horribly. You have taken lives. The grim reality of your profession sinks deeper into your soul with each skirmish. You become hardened, yes, but also haunted by the faces of the dead, by the screams, by the ever-present knowledge that it could have been you. Even when there's no direct combat, the tension is constant. You live with the persistent hum of danger, a low thrum beneath the surface of your daily life. Every shadow seems to hold a threat, every distant sound a warning. You learn to sleep lightly, one ear always listening, your mind never fully at rest. The feeling of isolation, of being an outpost of civilization in a sea of barbarism, can be overwhelming. You are far from home, far from the comforts and certainties of Rome. The empire feels like a distant dream, and your immediate reality is the cold steel of your weapon, the faces of your comrades, and the vast, hostile unknown beyond the palisade. Sometimes there are moments of strange peace. On a long patrol, you might stand on a high ridge, watching the sun set over an utterly unspoiled landscape, a vista of breathtaking beauty that few Romans will ever witness. Or you might share a quiet moment with a comrade by a crackling fire, the stars above so bright they feel close enough to touch, talking of home, of family, of the distant future. These moments are rare, but they are vital, offering a brief respite from the constant vigilance, a fleeting reminder of the humanity you are fighting to preserve. But then the sun rises, and the duties resume. The patrols continue, the watchtowers remain manned, the threat remains. You are on the edge of the world, a thin line of Roman steel and will, pushing back the darkness, and the silent, ever-present threat of the unknown is your constant companion, reminding you always that glory is a fleeting concept, and survival the truest victory. You've marched, you've built, you've stood guard on the razor's edge. Now let's talk about what sustains you both physically and psychologically in this remote frontier post. The answer, for the most part, is not much. Your body is a machine of war, but it runs on the coarsest of fuel. Forget the feasts of Rome. Your diet is one of grim monotony, designed for sustenance, not pleasure. The staple of your diet is grain, usually wheat or barley, which you mill yourself. Often in a communal hand mill, the rhythmic grinding a constant background noise in the fort. This grain is then made into pulse, a thick, unappetizing porridge, or more commonly, into panis militaris, the hardtack. Imagine a flat, unleavened bread, baked until it's as hard as a brick, designed to last for weeks, even months, without spoiling. It's often so tough you have to soak it in water or wine to make it remotely edible, or bash it with the hilt of your sword. It has almost no flavor, its texture is like concrete, and it scrapes your mouth raw. But it provides calories, energy for the endless work and marching. This is your daily bread, your sustenance. Day after day, week after week, year after year. It is the fundamental component of every meal. Alongside your hardtack, you might receive a portion of dried or salted meat, often pork or beef, tough and stringy, heavily preserved to prevent spoilage. Fresh meat is a rare luxury, usually only available if a hunting party is successful or if a local farmer can be persuaded or compelled to part with livestock. Fish too might make an occasional appearance if a river or sea is nearby, but again, it's not a regular occurrence. Vegetables and fruit are even rarer. You might get some lentils, beans, or a few dried figs, but fresh greens essential for health are almost non-existent unless the fort has its own small garden, or you are lucky enough to be stationed near a truly friendly local settlement willing to trade. The lack of variety leads to nutritional deficiencies, a silent enemy that saps your strength and weakens your body over the long term. Scurvy, caused by a lack of vitamin C, slowly weakens your gums, loosens your teeth, and causes your old wounds to reopen. It's a slow, insidious torment. To wash it all down, you drink posca, the diluted wine vinegar. It's acidic, sharp, and effective at killing some waterborne bacteria, making it safer to drink than plain water from a dubious source. But it's hardly refreshing, and its constant consumption can erode your teeth. Pure water is often a luxury, and beer, though consumed in some northern provinces, is not the standard Roman soldier's drink. The monotony of the diet leaves you constantly dreaming of richer, more flavorful foods, of the simple pleasures of a hot, savory meal. Hygiene is another profound challenge. In the fort, efforts are made, rudimentary as they are. Communal latrines, often flushed by a constant stream of water, are a standard feature, but they are still breeding grounds for disease. Waste disposal outside the fort is a constant struggle. Bathhouses, where they exist, are a cherished luxury, a chance to scrub away weeks of accumulated grime, to feel truly clean for a brief hour. But on campaign or in smaller, rougher outposts, personal hygiene is practically non-existent. You wash your face and hands in cold streams if available, but your body remains a symphony of sweat, dust, and dried mud, your clothes clinging and chafing. This lack of hygiene, combined with living in close quarters, creates an ideal environment for the spread of illness. And illness is ever present. Far more soldiers die from disease than from combat. Dysentery, with its debilitating cramps and ceaseless evacuations, sweeps through a crowded fort like wildfire, leaving men weak and dehydrated, often unable to recover. Malaria, carried by mosquitoes from stagnant pools, brings its recurring fevers and chills, slowly consuming your strength. Typhus, spread by lice and fleas, can decimate a unit. Simple cuts and scrapes from training or labor, which in your modern world would be minor nuisances, can easily fester and become deadly infections in a world without antibiotics. Gangrene can set in, requiring amputation, a terrifying prospect performed without anesthetic, often by a fellow soldier. The fort's valetudinarium, the hospital, is a grim place, filled with the groans of the sick and wounded. The medicus, the military doctor, is often a Greek or Eastern physician, skilled by the standards of the day, but operating with a limited understanding of anatomy and an even more limited arsenal of treatments. He might know how to set a bone, to bind a wound, to extract an arrow, but he has no concept of germ theory. Herbs, poultices, basic surgery with unsterilized instruments, bloodletting, these are his tools. You might be given a potion for your fever or have a festering wound cauterized with a hot iron, the searing pain a brutal reminder of your vulnerability. The pain of a wound is immense, but the fear of infection, of a slow, agonizing death from a seemingly minor injury, is even greater. You see comrades waste away, their bodies consumed by fever, their minds delirious, and you pray that such a fate does not befall you. The psychological toll of this constant threat to your health is profound. You are always aware of the possibility of falling ill, of succumbing to a nameless fever, of being incapacitated by a disease that cannot be fought with a sword. It adds another layer of anxiety to your already stressful existence. Every stomach cramp, every cough, every ache sends a ripple of fear through you. You learn to live with a certain stoicism, to accept that illness is a part of life, a gamble you must take every day. You rely on the strength of your own constitution, on a grim determination to simply keep going, and the boredom. Oh, the boredom. Interspersed with the physical labor and the moments of terror is the vast, yawning emptiness of repetitive days. The frontier isn't a constant battlefield. It's mostly waiting. Waiting for orders, waiting for supplies, waiting for something to happen. The lack of intellectual stimulation, the sameness of every day, gnaws at your spirit. You might try to alleviate it with gambling, with rudimentary crafts, perhaps by carving a small figurine from wood or scratching letters home. But the frontier is mentally isolating, a place where your mind can wander into dark corners if you let it. You miss the flavors of home, the smell of fresh baked bread from your mother's oven, the vibrant colors of a market, the sound of music, the warmth of a loving touch. You carry these memories like fragile treasures, polishing them in your mind, trying to keep them alive against the relentless erosion of the frontier grind. But they fade, becoming more like dreams than memories, replaced by the bitter taste of hardtack, the smell of damp earth and unwashed bodies, the constant hum of underlying anxiety. The frontier doesn't just demand your physical strength, it demands your soul, slowly stripping away the civilian you once were, leaving behind a hardened, stoic, often weary man, sustained by minimal rations, constantly battling unseen enemies within his own body, and enduring the profound weight of a deeply unromantic existence. This is the true grind of the Roman frontier soldier, a life where survival itself is a constant, quiet victory. You are a soldier of Rome, a formidable machine of war, but even a machine needs to be oiled, and your oil is coin. You joined, perhaps, with promises of citizenship, of land, of a better life, but the immediate reality is pay, And it's often a harsh lesson in financial austerity. Imagine earning a wage only to find that a significant portion of it is immediately deducted before you even see a single coin. This is the reality for you, the Roman legionary. Your pay, the stipendium, is distributed 3 times a year in fixed installments.
Sounds reasonable, right?
But before those precious denarii even touch your calloused palm, Rome takes its cut.
And it's a substantial one.
Deductions are made for your food, your annona, which, as we've discussed, is a monotonous and unappetizing blend of grain and salted meat. You pay for your clothing, the rough wool tunic, the breeches, the heavy cloak that protects you from the elements. You pay for your weapons, for the gladius, the pilum, the scutum, the armor that shields you. These aren't gifts from the empire. They are tools of your trade, and you are expected to pay for them. Imagine paying for your own uniform, your own rifle, your own boots, straight out of your meager paycheck. It quickly becomes clear that a significant portion, sometimes up to 2/3, of your official pay is already gone before you even see it. So, what's left? A small amount of cash, perhaps just enough for a few indulgences, a roll of dice, a shared jug of cheap wine. This small sum is precious, and you learn to guard it carefully. Saving up is a challenge, but it's vital for your future. Many soldiers deposit their remaining pay into the unit's strongbox, the fiscus castrensis, a kind of military bank managed by the signifier, where it accrues over your years of service. This is your retirement fund, your nest egg, the promise of a more comfortable life when your 25 years are finally over. You dream of it often, counting the days, counting the coins, a silent hope in the relentless grind. Beyond official pay, there are other, less formal ways a soldier might acquire wealth. Campaigns, particularly successful ones, might bring the opportunity for loot. Imagine marching through a recently conquered territory past sacked towns and villages. The official policy is that all plunder belongs to Rome, but in the chaos of war, opportunities arise. A hastily grabbed piece of jewelry, a pouch of coins, a valuable garment, these might be hidden away, a forbidden bonus to your meager income. Such acts are technically illegal, punishable by flogging or worse, but the temptation is immense. And the reality of the frontier is that strict adherence to rules can sometimes be relaxed in the heat of battle or the aftermath of conquest. You weigh the risk against the potential reward, a silent calculation made in the dark corners of your mind. Interaction with local economies is another avenue. Around many frontier forts, civilian settlements known as vici often sprang up. These were populated by traders, artisans, and women who followed the legions, catering to the soldiers' needs. Here, you could buy small luxuries, perhaps a better quality of wine than the standard posca, a piece of fresh fruit from a rare merchant, a small amulet for good luck, or even the brief, transactional comfort of a prostitute. Your few remaining coins, hard-earned and jealously guarded, would be exchanged for these small moments of escape from the military routine. The prices were often inflated, taking advantage of the soldiers' desperation for diversion. But for a brief moment, you could feel a semblance of civilian life, a taste of a world beyond the palisade. Trade, too, could be a source of informal income. Perhaps you possess a skill learned from your former civilian life, like carpentry or smithing, and can offer your services to the vicus, or even to fellow soldiers for a small fee during your limited downtime. Or perhaps you've acquired something unique during a campaign or patrol that you can discreetly trade for something more valuable. These are small, almost imperceptible currents beneath the surface of official military life, but they are crucial for many soldiers trying to make ends meet or accumulate enough wealth to truly escape destitution upon retirement. The donativum, a special grant of money, might be bestowed by a new emperor or upon a significant victory. A welcome, albeit irregular, windfall. Imagine the surge of excitement, the rare cheer that would erupt through the ranks when news of a donativum spread through the fort. This was a chance to send money home to your family, to pay off debts, or to finally afford that small piece of land you've been dreaming of. These moments were rare, but they provided a powerful psychological boost, a tangible reminder that your service, your sacrifice, was sometimes recognized and rewarded beyond the basic stipend. But the financial reality is generally one of constraint. Most of your life is provided for in a basic, unappetizing way, but true wealth, true comfort, remains elusive. The prospect of a nesta missio, an honorable discharge after 25 years of service, is the ultimate goal. With this, you would receive not only your accumulated savings, but also a significant cash bonus, often enough to buy a small plot of land, or in some periods an actual land grant, usually in a newly pacified province. This land, far from your origins, might be in a place where your neighbors were the very barbarians you spent your life fighting. It was a promise, a beacon of hope at the end of a long, arduous tunnel. Imagine the psychological impact of this long wait, this constant deferral of gratification. For 25 years, your body is owned by Rome, your life dictated by its demands. Your financial freedom is almost entirely postponed till the very end. This requires immense patience, a profound sense of self-discipline, and an unwavering belief in the promise of the empire. You watch older comrades receive their discharge papers, their faces a mixture of relief and trepidation, as they step back into a civilian world that they've largely forgotten, with money in their pockets and a future to build. You envy them, but you also understand the weight of their long service. The frontier legionary's life is not one of financial abundance. It is a life of necessary frugality, of calculating every denarius, of making every coin stretch. Your pay is not about comfort. It's about maintenance, about survival, and about the long, slow accumulation of enough capital to start a new life when Rome finally releases its hold on you. It's a testament to the iron will of these men that they endured such a system. Driven by the distant hope of a small piece of land, a taste of freedom, and a modest pension at the end of their arduous, utterly unglamorous service, you're a cog in Rome's war machine, and like any machine, it must run with absolute precision. This precision is enforced not just by training, but by a system of discipline that is both relentless and brutal. Imagine living every waking moment, and even your sleeping ones, under the shadow of a justice system where mistakes, even minor ones, can be met with horrific consequences. This is the reality of military law on the Roman frontier. The centurion's vitis, his vine staff, is the most immediate symbol of this iron discipline. It's not just a walking stick. It's a weapon of correction wielded with swift and unyielding authority. A moment of inattention on the parade ground, a slovenly appearance, a tardy response, and the vitis could come down across your back, your shoulders, or your head, a sharp, stinging reminder of your place. Imagine the constant tension, the fear of earning that stinging blow, keeping you alert, keeping you subservient. The centurion is the father, the judge, and the executioner of his centuria, and his word is law. You learn to move, speak, and even think with an awareness of his ever-present scrutiny. Minor infractions, like gambling during duty hours, brawling with a comrade, or neglecting your equipment, might result in extra duties, more digging, more guard shifts, less sleep, or a reduction in your rations. A punishment that directly targets your meager sustenance. Imagine working harder for longer on even less food. It's designed to break your spirit, to remind you that even the smallest deviation from the rules will be met with immediate, tangible consequences. The entire system is predicated on maintaining absolute obedience,
On instilling a profound respect for authority, and frankly,
on fostering a deep-seated fear of punishment. But then there are the more severe punishments, the ones that strike terror into the heart of every legionary. Flogging, the fustuarium, is a terrifying spectacle. Imagine being stripped naked, tied to a post, and beaten with rods or whips by your own comrades. sometimes until you die. It is not just physical pain, it is the ultimate public humiliation, a demonstration of your absolute vulnerability before the might of the legion. You witness these punishments, you hear the screams, you see the blood, and the image is seared into your memory, a potent deterrent against any thought of insubordination or cowardice. The purpose is not merely to punish the individual, but to send an unequivocal message to every man in the ranks. Rome's authority is absolute, and its justice is merciless. Desertion is perhaps one of the most grievous offenses. To abandon your post, to flee from your duties, is to betray Rome itself. If caught, the consequences are invariably death, often a cruel and drawn-out one, designed to serve as a horrific example. Imagine running, hiding in the wilderness, constantly looking over your shoulder, knowing that if the legion catches you, your fate is sealed. The mental burden of such a choice, this constant fear of discovery, would be almost as unbearable as the punishment itself. Then there is the infamous chilling punishment of decimation. While rarely practiced on the frontier for individual acts of cowardice or insubordination, it was used for truly systemic failures, for mutiny, or for mass cowardice in battle. Imagine an entire cohort, 480 men, being paraded before the legion. Every 10th man chosen by lot is then beaten to death by the remaining 9. Your own comrades, your tent mates, might be forced to wield the clubs to participate in this gruesome act, on pain of suffering the same fate themselves. Imagine the psychological horror of this. The sheer injustice of innocent men dying for the failures of others, the unbearable moral weight placed on those forced to execute their friends. It's a punishment so brutal, so utterly dehumanizing, that it almost beggars belief, but it underscores the Roman military's unwavering commitment to absolute discipline, even at the cost of its own men. It taught that the unit, the legion, Rome itself, was more important than any individual life, and that collective responsibility was a terrifying reality. The commanders, from the tribune to the legatus, hold ultimate authority. They are the final arbiters of justice, often presiding over a rudimentary court-martial system for more serious offenses. Evidence might be gathered, witnesses heard, but the process is swift and the outcomes are rarely lenient. There's no complex system of appeals, no public defender. Your fate rests entirely in the hands of your superiors. Men whose primary concern is the integrity and fighting effectiveness of the legion, not your individual rights or well-being. Living under such a system of iron discipline has a profound psychological impact. You learn to suppress your individuality, your personal opinions, your natural human instincts to question or resist. You become part of the machine, your actions dictated by orders, your movements synchronized with those around you. Fear becomes a constant, almost imperceptible companion, a background hum that keeps you alert, compliant, and focused. But it also forges a strange kind of resilience. You learn to endure, to compartmentalize, to find a grim stoicism in the face of arbitrary power. You bond with your comrades not just through shared hardship, but through shared vulnerability to this brutal system. You learn to trust them implicitly, because your collective survival depends on everyone adhering to the rules, no matter how harsh. The discipline isn't just about punishment, it's about control. It's about maintaining order in a large body of armed men, often far from the direct oversight of Rome, living in harsh conditions, surrounded by potential enemies. Without this rigorous, often terrifying system, the legion would descend into chaos, unable to perform its duties. It's the price of Rome's military might, paid in the fear, suffering, and absolute obedience of its soldiers. You are a testament to this system, a living example of how Rome could mold men into unyielding instruments of its will, often through the terrifying power of its own uncompromising justice. And as you lay in your hard bunk, listening to the sounds of the fort, the faint creak of the rampart, the distant hoot of an owl, you remember the lessons of the centurion's Vitis and the grim stories of decimation, and you resolve, Once again, to toe the line, to survive, to endure this relentless grind until your long-awaited discharge finally arrives. Imagine this. You've survived. You've endured the brutal training, the endless marches, the back-breaking labor of fort building. You've faced the biting cold and the scorching sun, the constant hunger and the omnipresent threat of disease. You've stood sentry, fought in skirmishes, lived under the shadow of iron discipline for a quarter of a century, 25 years. A lifetime for many, an eternity for others. And now the moment you've dreamed of, planned for, perhaps even doubted would ever arrive, is finally here. You are granted your honesta missio, an honorable discharge from the Roman legions. You stand before your commandant, perhaps an aging veteran himself, his face etched with the same lines of hardship and command that now define your own. He hands you a small bronze tablet, your diploma, a document verifying your service, your honorable discharge, and crucially, your full Roman citizenship if you weren't born with it. This is your ticket to a new life, a tangible symbol of your transformation from a simple recruit to a veteran of the empire. Imagine the weight of it in your hand, the feel of the cold metal, a physical manifestation of your freedom. But what does freedom truly mean after so long? For 25 years, your life has been entirely structured, dictated by the trumpet call, the centurion's orders, the relentless rhythm of military existence.
Every meal, every movement, every decision has been made for you, or at least within the strict confines of the legion.
Now suddenly you are your own master. The silence that follows the trumpet call, which you've cursed for decades, might now feel strangely hollow, almost unnerving. The camaraderie of your contubernium, the tight-knit bond forged in shared suffering, is about to be broken. You've come to rely on these men, to trust them with your life, and leaving them is like tearing away a piece of yourself. There's a profound sense of loss, even amidst the relief and joy. You likely receive your accumulated savings from the fiscus castrensis, and a significant cash bonus, perhaps enough to purchase a small plot of land or set up a modest business. In some periods, especially during the early empire, you might even receive an actual land grant, usually in a newly conquered or pacified province.
Imagine that.
A piece of land, your own land to farm, to build a new home, perhaps to raise a family. But this land is often on the very edges of the empire, sometimes in the same wild, untamed regions you spent your life patrolling. Your neighbors might be the very people you once fought, now grudgingly brought into the Roman sphere. You, the Roman veteran, are now part of the colonization effort, bringing Roman ways and Roman order to these distant lands. The transition to civilian life can be incredibly difficult. You are a man hardened by war, accustomed to violence and discipline, with a soldier's gait and a soldier's stare. The gentle rhythms of civilian life, the intricacies of local politics, the soft hands of farmers. These might feel alien to you. You are used to giving orders or receiving them, not to negotiating prices in a market or engaging in polite conversation. You are a stranger in a strange land.
Even if it's nominally Roman, your body, too,
bears the marks of your service. Old wounds ache in the cold, your joints are stiff, your hands are permanently gnarled from years of digging and sword practice. You carry the scars, both visible and invisible, of a life lived on the edge, but you also carry the indelible marks of Romanization. You speak Latin, perhaps more fluently than your native tongue. You understand Roman law, Roman administration, Roman engineering. You bring these skills, this knowledge, this ingrained sense of order to your new life. You become a pillar of your community, a veteran whose experience and wisdom are sought after. You might become a local magistrate, a respected elder, or simply a diligent farmer bringing Roman agricultural techniques to your new plot of land. You are an agent of the very empire you served, extending its reach not with a sword, but with a plough and a quiet, determined will. As you reflect on your years of service, perhaps sitting by a fire in your new home, the sounds of your family around you, you remember the vastness of the empire. You have seen its northern fringes, its eastern deserts, its western coasts. You have stood on mountains and crossed mighty rivers. You have been part of something monumental, something that shaped the world. The roads you marched on, the forts you built, the peace you enforced. These things leave a lasting legacy. The very landscape of the frontier, even today, bears the faint scars of Roman occupation, the straight lines of ancient roads, the ghost outlines of long-vanished forts, the occasional shard of Roman pottery unearthed by a modern plough. Now fast forward 2 millennia. Look around your own room at the soft blanket, the warm glow of your lamp, the silence of your comfortable home. Imagine the sheer, unadulterated luxury of hot running water, of abundant food, of medicine that can heal a simple cut, of a life free from the constant threat of imminent death or disease. You are enjoying a level of comfort and security that the Roman legionary could only have dreamed of, a standard of living built in part on the very foundations these weary soldiers laid, brick by laborious brick, life by sacrificed life. The forgotten daily grind of the Roman soldier on the frontier is not just a tale of suffering. It's a testament to human endurance, to the power of discipline, and to the immense, often unacknowledged, cost of empire. These men like you had dreams, fears, hopes. They were individuals forced into a collective existence shaped by the brutal demands of their time. They were the very bedrock of Rome's power, the anonymous hands and feet that stretched its dominion across continents, and their sacrifices, their toil, their relentless grind echo through history, informing the very comforts you now take for granted. So, as you drift off, perhaps spare a thought for those distant figures, standing their last watch, gazing out into the wilderness, their lives a testament to the iron will of Rome, and to the profound, enduring spirit of mankind. Good night.